You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
This is the Daniel Monday Night Community Show on demand through YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing to listen to us through this method. If you'd like to keep up to date with when I add new interviews, then subscribe to this channel. If you could just let our listeners know who you are and the name of your band.
Yeah, so I'm Miriam Baines, and it's Miriam and my husband Ollie Baines, and we're from Flight Brigade.
So could you give us a little bit of a background behind how you started?
Sure. Well, it goes back generations, actually, with us, because Ollie's dad was driving along in his VW van and picked up my parents, who were hitchhiking, because they were musicians. They were in a cult sort of following group called Mask at the time, and they were travelling across the country playing at student unions and just playing gigs. They did all sorts of gigs, like supporting Roxy Music and Hawkwind and lots of Brian Ferry and John Martin, all these different people. So they were travelling around doing their gigs, but they were hitching from gig to gig because they had no money. And Ollie's dad, so now my husband, the lead singer, Ollie, he picked them up. So our parents knew each other before we were born, and then sort of went their separate ways for a bit. Ollie's dad then married an American and went and lived in America, so Ollie spent his early years on a farm in Ohio. And meanwhile, me and my sister were back in Hampshire in England with our parents, who were busy making music, and we'd go to gigs and sleep behind the speaker cabs and things like that, and they had friends over and played and jamming into the night and stuff. So we were always surrounded by music. And then Ollie came back to England and moved back to Hampshire, and because our parents knew each other and we got to know each other, and sort of me and my sister had been quite sensible, really, because we'd reacted against our parents, who were a bit zany. And Dory was studying classical music at the Yehudi Menuhin School, and I went to drama school and did theatre. But Ollie convinced us to start a band with him, so we sort of quit those things gradually, and sort of started travelling around the country with him, doing Flight Brigade, and that's how it started, really. Kind of like two families coming together.
So it's something that's always been there, and you've always had a passion for music.
Yeah, it was just sort of innate, because it was what we grew up surrounded by, And Ollie grew up in Ohio in his early years, so he was surrounded by kind of some American music and kind of classic songwriters. His parents would always have on classic songwriters like Paul Simon and things like that. So he grew up listening to that sort of stuff, and my parents were slightly more avant-garde style music. But all in all, we were both surrounded by it in different ways, and then we got together and started doing it ourselves.
So does what you do reflect those sort of styles?
In some ways, I think you could probably see some influences. Like certainly Ollie picked up a lot from the classic songwriting tradition, like people like Paul Simon, who I mentioned, stuff like that. He's quite a lot of the songs are really well formed and quite classic in their style, but then we like to add a sort of it's quite dynamic when we perform. There's 7 of us, and it's quite loud and dynamic, and so I guess that's reminiscent of some of those bands in the 70s, I guess.
So what about your new EP and the tour?
Yeah, so it's called the Stealing Fire EP. It's 4 tracks on there. And the tour takes us all around the country, but sort of over a couple of months. And I don't know, where are you based?
What, our station? We're
where are you?
We're on the Isle of Sheppey in Swale, Kent. So it's sort of North Kent.
Yeah. Yeah, so we were in Kent last Friday, and then we're in Brighton, and then we're going up to Cheltenham, back to London on next Wednesday. We're going to Cardiff and Swansea, and then Winchester, Bristol, Southampton. Then we go up north to Doncaster, Leeds, Nottingham, and Bury. So it keeps us busy for the next couple of months.
Now, you were letting me know there's a sort of a good story behind the meaning of your upcoming EP that you wanted to tell us about.
Oh, well, actually, it's one of the tracks. It's called Our Friends, Our Enemies. I don't know if you've been given the track. You've been given the EP. Have you heard it or seen it?
I think I've seen a bit of it.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the 4th track on it's called Our Friends, Our Enemies, and it does have quite a cool story. It's a story we heard. I think we were walking around Clapham Junction, where we lived, and someone said, "Oh, loads of bombs fell around here, but they didn't actually explode." And what it was is that there's quite a few bombs that fell on London that didn't have detonators in, and it turned out that there was some Czech workers who were in the camps, in the military camps, under the enemy eyes, who were being forced to make the weapons, the bombs. But what they did is they purposely rolled off powderless bombs to subvert what the enemy's plans, and so that's why bombs were falling that didn't have the gunpowder in or whatever they have in them that explodes. So they were just non-explosive bombs which didn't do any damage, and that was all because of the the Czech workers who kind of had their coalition against the Nazis. We just thought that was a really interesting story, and then we looked at it more, and apparently one of the bombshells was opened, and inside was a note written in Czech which said, "This is all we can do for now." So it was their kind of resistance against fascism.
Yeah.
We just thought that was such an interesting story of bravery, and what they did under, they could have easily been killed as soon as they were spotted. So it was just that sort of story of resistance that was really interesting. Yeah.
Well, it certainly sounds interesting. Was there anything else you wanted to get over to our listeners or let them know about, when they can sort of see you? Yeah,
well, just that we'd love them to come out and see us, when we're coming to, hopefully, near them, wherever they're based. And, check us out online. YouTube is a really good place to look at us and to discover us, because we've got some live videos up on YouTube, and we've got a new video we're releasing at the end of this week called The Phantom. So that's a really good place to find out more on YouTube, and, of course, Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, all those things. But YouTube has loads of nice live videos and stuff, so they can have a look at us there.
And what would they search to find that?
Yeah, so they search Flight Brigade in YouTube.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time out to let our listeners know all about you and what you do.
Thanks so much. Cheers.
Thank you.